Good evening, everybody. I am Nate Eaton, and we have a surprise courtroom insider tonight. It is a case that has been in the headlines for the past week or so, and a lot of bombshells dropped today in the Brad Compher Nori Jones case. I personally have not been in the courtroom, but we're going to bring in an expert, our own Kalama Hines. He's standing by in just a couple of minutes. We're going to bring him in to kind of set the stage for what has been happening in this trial as it gets underway. And actually, we're into it about a week now. This is a case that has been in the headlines since 2004. If you can believe that. Where were you 20 years ago right now? I was in college. I was finishing my junior year of college when this young lady was murdered. This is Nori Jones. This is a story Kalama wrote back in February. She was an amazing girl, kind to everybody. Loved ones of Pocatello woman killed in 2004 wait for justice, and they have been waiting a long time. She was 25 years old when she was killed in her home. And now, finally, the man accused of killing her is facing a jury. And let me show you the suspect. Kalama has done a great job in the courtroom. You can see this is what he looks like on your screen right, upper screen right. That's just one of the images. Brad Compher is his name, and he is the one who has been before a jury. He says he's innocent. Obviously, he took this all the way to a jury and felt that it is time for his side to be shared, and so that is what he is doing. So, Kalama Hines joining me now live. Kalama, why don't you say hello to everybody? You just got out of the courtroom. How were things today? Okay, let's go back to the beginning. Are we good on sound? Okay. Apparently, our audience, Kalama, cannot hear you, but I can hear you. That's what Jordan is telling me. So he's going to come in here and finagle these buttons, and hopefully we can get you so that people can hear you. By the way, wherever you're watching from, let us know in the comments. Let us know, too, if you have heard about this case, if you are into this case, and what questions you have about this case. I know it's one, like I said, it's been 20 years in the makings, so a lot of people are like, I don't remember, which one is that? Sadly, there's been so many cases in the news lately and over the past few years that we'd hate for this one to be forgotten, this beautiful young woman to be forgotten. But let us know where you're watching from and how you found out about the case and what questions you might have. There is a fascinating, interesting tie with another murder case that was just featured on Dateline about a week ago. Not the Chris Tapp one, but another one. You want Kalama to say something?
Yeah.
Kalama, if you can, okay, give us the background. Yeah, I can hear you. Jordan will let us know in a minute if our audience can hear you, but take us back to 2004 when this whole story broke.
Oh, I know. I believe I know what it is. Kalama, do you want to say something really quick?
Yep, he's talking. Sorry, Kalama, keep talking because Jordan is here troubleshooting.
Okay.
And
I don't. Can you hear me, Jordan?
might hear him through this mic, which is fine. I promise all you audience members, we did test this beforehand and it worked, and this happens every time we go live.
I feel like we're in the courtroom right now because the attorneys have been chastised a little bit by the judge for having technical issues not ironed out.
Right, I know. Well, there were technical issues in the Daybell trial. I mean, there was at one point somebody was up with a microphone holding it up to a computer speaker, which we can do here. We have this microphone, and I can hear you pretty well on here. But luckily, Jordan is a tech whiz and can fix these things.
Welcome back from vacation, Jordan.
Yeah, Jordan.
Thank you.
Jordan's been on vacation the past week. While we're getting this figured out, a few people are already asking if we're going to do Courtroom Insider during Chad Daybell's case. The answer, of course, is yes. That trial, believe it or not, starts a month from Friday. It starts April 1st. Starts on a Monday, but, Friday's March 1st. So we'll be in Boise ready to do it all over again. Deja vu to a year ago when Lori Vallow went to trial. Will be a bit of a different trial as this is a death penalty case, the Daybell case I'm talking about, not Brad Compher. But there will be some different twists and turns, some different evidence, and we'll see what happens with that. But yes, we will be doing Courtroom Insider during that trial. If he uses this mic, if this mic picks it up, Jordan, will that work?
Yeah, I think that should work.
Okay, should we just try that?
Yeah, I'm just gonna do one last thing.
Okay.
Quick little Hail Mary here.
For those of you tuning in, it looks like a bunch of people have just joining us. We are doing a recap of the Brad Compher murder case, which has been underway since last week. Jury selection lasted a few days last week. Do you need Kalama to talk?
Yeah, that'd be great.
All right, Kalama, why don't you tell us what happened last
Can you
week?
hear me now, Jordan? Can you hear me? Are we good now? No, still no good?
I believe Nate just said that he could hear him.
Oh, okay.
Will you double check with Nate, though?
Yeah.
I could bring it up, but that would be kind of a disaster. I feel for feedback. Nate, can you
Hear him
hear
a
me?
little
You
bit,
can hear
just
me
through the
comment.
mic.
Yeah, good. That's an idea. If you can hear Kalama comment.
I'm not saying anything, so we'll assume that I'm not being heard.
No, Okay. Let's try that really quick.
All right, Kalama, give us...
Check. Can you hear me?
That worked right before it started.
This reminds me of the beginning days of COVID when Zoom was a thing and how many people did Zoom meetings and it was like, can you hear me now? You're on mute. I'm sure you all have seen the one where the suspect appears in court and the attorney can't figure out how to turn his screen from a cat. He's a cat. And it's a cat, right?
Oh, yeah, I think so.
Kalama is no cat. I'm not a cat. We're not dogs either. But in the video, the judge says, counsel, I believe you're a cat, or something like that. And he goes, I know I am, Your Honor. I can't figure out how to turn it off. Believe me. Yeah, that was one that went viral early on. But it's weird to think that, when COVID 4 years ago started, I'd never done a Zoom in my life, and here we are using it all the time. I had done Skype, but not a Zoom. Okay. I'm hearing him in my ear.
Looks like audio is coming through.
There is a delay, though, remember, so... If you're hearing Kalama, please give us the biggest thumbs up that you can. Or we'll take a hug or a heart.
It's weird because it's coming out, but we should be
Let me check our messages.
But... Oh, man. Yeah, this worked 20 minutes ago.
It did work. We did test. Our comment moderator is ready to go. And for those of you watching on replay, not watching live, just hit fast forward. Okay. He sounds like he's underwater. That must be when he's being picked up in this mic.
Yeah.
Peggy, if you can hear me, thank you for lending your moderating skills.
I'm wondering if we call Kalama, is there a way to mute him here and call him? I guess it wouldn't sync and have the audio on the phone.
Yeah, we could do that.
Well, but it won't sync his mouth.
Oh, that's true.
Yeah.
Unplug your headphones and let's see what that works.
What's that, Kalama?
It would be the same delay. The audio and video would be on the same delay, so I think it would be fine.
Okay, there are a bunch of messages saying we hear him.
Okay.
All right, Kalama, we're just going to go with the fact that we hear you.
Okay, sounds good. Well, hello, everyone.
I hear you. Hopefully our audience hears you. We apologize if there's an issue, if you can't hear, but can you hear? Okay. It sounds like I'm speaking directly into someone's ear and you are speaking through like 12 walls, I guess. Here's Kalama, do you have your phone nearby?
So yeah, I got my phone right here.
I'm going to call you.
I just got a message that someone can hear me. I think. Oh yeah, Amy said she can hear me. Amy, Nate's wife.
Okay. It's probably quite faint.
Why don't you call me? Just to be safe.
Why don't we call him? Can we mute him on this then?
Yeah, if he just mutes his computer and calls
Kalama, will you mute your computer and I'm going to call you and we'll just do it this way.
I am sorry about that, everyone.
All right. Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you much better. We just need to mute you on this computer, so stand by. Okay. Thank you, everyone. Welcome to Courtroom Insider. We are joined today, Kalama Hines. He's been in the courtroom all week, this week and last week, for the Brad Compher murder trial. Let's start from the beginning. Kalama, take us back to 2004.
So I'm going to redo this again. We're going to go back before 2004, actually, to some descriptions I got from friends and loved ones and family of Nori Jones, who described her as an incredibly bubbly personality, just the kind of person who lit up a room. I've been told that she had a smile or a laugh that made everyone else around her laugh. And like I was just explaining when we had our first cutoff, there was a rancher near the family's home. He said he didn't need a rooster because he knew what time of day it was by her laughter. So just the kind of, I needed to paint that picture because I think about that regularly in court when they show pictures of Nori. I think about the idea of that, and having grown up around a lot of chickens, I know that they're pretty loud in the morning. So
right.
That laughter says a lot to me.
It's probably one of those laughs too that you could recognize from a mile away. And in covering these trials, you put so much. There's so much emphasis put on the suspects, the people that did the bad thing. That remembering the victims is important. I'm glad you shared that. So, bubbly girl in her mid-20s had a laugh that everybody could hear. What happened?
So the morning of September 28th, 2004, some of her coworkers and friends were concerned that she didn't show up for work. They actually went to her house to check on her. They thought maybe she was sick. She had been at her boyfriend, fiance's house the night before and went home sick, so they were concerned about her. Went to her house. She didn't answer her door. They got her landlord to unlock the door. They went in and found her lifeless body laying in her bed, face down. She had so another way that she was described, she had very golden blonde hair. And a friend of hers, a coworker of hers, said that her hair wasn't blonde when they found her. It was red from the major amount of blood that had come out. So they had a pretty good idea that she was dead. They immediately left the room. They called the police. Police showed up. They confirmed she was dead, and life-saving measures weren't even attempted because by the time EMTs got there, rigor mortis had already set in. So
was she home alone?
She was. She lived alone. She spent a lot of her time at her boyfriend, fiance, depends on who you're talking to, at her boyfriend or fiance's house, real wild. She went home that night. It seems to be kind of a rare occasion where she would stay at home by herself. So yeah, and when she was found the next day, she was again alone. And then obviously an investigation started, and immediately her boyfriend, Real Wild, again, was identified as a suspect. There was also another man who kind of followed her around and concerned some of her friends, a man named Robert Spillett, who was also identified as a suspect. And they were both investigated thoroughly. They were both eliminated as suspects eventually, and the investigation actually lasted 10 years. A lot of you may or may not remember this. 2004. We weren't in the technical age that we are today. There are a lot of things that are available now that were not even thought of in 2004. Some of the things that developed along the way is how DNA is forensically examined. In 2011, I believe, Brad Compher became a suspect. He was interviewed by police. He did not alleviate the suspicions that he may have been involved. So detectives started surveilling him, and eventually they collected a cigarette butt that he flicked on the street, sent that off for DNA examination to compare to DNA that was found at the scene. And as we found out today, his DNA was a match at a very significant level.
Okay, so stop right there. That's a big bombshell that came today.
Sorry.
Nori Jones was killed in 2004. They didn't get a suspect for 7 years. Think about that. You talked about the technology. I don't know if I had even sent a text message in 2004. That may have been like the year that I got my first flip phone that I sent a text. So think back.
I graduated in high school in 2002 when we were sending texts. So maybe.
Okay, I'm old. I was still in college. I didn't get a cell phone until my senior year. But you think about the technology changes with just that technology that you and I might use. There's obviously no smartphones. Right now there's Ring doorbell cameras. She didn't have a Ring doorbell camera. No one knew who was coming and going from the house. So they're investigating for that 7 years. And do we know what led them to him back then in 2011 when they originally questioned him?
So some fingerprints actually were the first things that were kind of linked. There was a fingerprint found on the door of Nori's house. Those fingerprints were not matched to a known print until, gosh, I don't remember exactly when, but he was eventually linked by the fingerprints. The ISP fingerprinting lab got an APHIS hit. I don't recall what that acronym means. But the fingerprint database hit. It was kind of verified by the human technicians and human fingerprint experts, and that was what sent police on that path toward eventually arresting Brad Compher in 2014.
Okay, so in the midst of all this, side note, there's another murder in Pocatello.
Yeah. And
that's the case that was featured on Dateline just a few weeks ago. It's been featured before. But Cassie Jo Stoddard, who was, well, give a brief synopsis. She was a high schooler, right?
Yeah, she was, if I recall correctly, a junior at Pocatello High School.
Right.
And some of her schoolmates, Tori Adamczyk and Brian Draper, murdered her, from what I understand, for like internet clout, for internet fame. They posted videos and stuff of leading up to the murder and talking about the murder, and then even some after the murder. They were convicted and sentenced to life in prison. That murder occurred in 2006, so 2 years after Nori was killed.
Okay, so 2 years after, and that was a gruesome one, and you're right, they videotaped it. Keep those names in mind, Adamczyk and Draper, because they're playing a part in this murder case, or, well, I shouldn't say they're playing a part, but they're associated somehow, and we'll get to that in a minute. All right, crime happens in 2004. 2006, Cassie Jo Stoddard is killed. 2011, they arrest the guy, Brad Compher, the guy who's on trial, right?
He wasn't arrested until 2014.
2014, okay.
2011, he became a suspect. 14, he was arrested.
And do we know, Kalama, what happened in those 3 years? Were there any other suspects? Anybody else questioned?
So DNA from both Robert Spillett and Rio Wild, the names that I've already brought up, were sent off for forensic analysis at the same time that some Compher DNA was sent off. So they remained, using terminology that we use in court, they remained persons of interest in the case. From what I understand, Rio Wild was all but eliminated pretty early on because he had an alibi. He didn't have any of the defensive wounds that they expected to see, that detectives expected to see from this gruesome murder. And he was still a person of interest, but not really a suspect anymore.
Okay, so then 10 years ago, 2014, he's arrested. Now, in Idaho, Brad Compher is. In Idaho, you've got 6 months between arraignment and trial for your rights, unless you waive your right to a speedy trial. Why did this take 10 years?
So there were numerous delays. First off, there was some questions about whether Brad Compher was mentally fit to stand trial. So that created a delay and actually led to the state dropping its hope for a death penalty because of his mental, I guess, incapabilities. They're pursuing at most life in prison.
So death penalty is not on the table.
Yeah, death penalty has been removed from the table. Yes. There was also some delays about Compher questioning his counsel, his representation, and actually another delay was avoided just in January when Compher again raised questions about his representation, and it was agreed upon that a pro hoc vici attorney from New Jersey, a guy named Barry Proctor, would stay on the case even without it being a death penalty because Compher was comfortable kind of communicating through Proctor, where he wasn't as comfortable with his other defense attorneys, Riley Fry and Scott Andrew.
Interesting. So there's this guy in New Jersey who he's comfortable dealing with, so he agreed to stay on the case.
Yeah.
Okay, so we finally get to jury selection last week. How many days did that take?
So jury selection took about a day and a half, but the process, from what I understand, talking to the jury commission, actually started weeks, perhaps months before jury selection started on January 20th officially. They started with a pool of around 600 people. Because this case is 20 years old, people are going to know about it. People are going to have kind of general idea of what happened. 600 was the starting point. About 200 ended up in voir dire February 20th. And then through, eliminations and for cause eliminations and stuff like that, they ended up with their jury midday the 21st, so midday Wednesday. And Wednesday is when the trial actually started.
And here's one of the interesting things, Kalama. Jury selection was not in the courtroom.
No, actually. So because it was such a large jury pool, the jury selection process was actually done at ISU's the Bengal Alumni Center at the Idaho State University. So it allowed for like a large conference room where the entire pool to be brought together and then kind of the selection to be done at once.
Yeah, they brought the courtroom to the university. They got the jury picked. Tell me about opening statements. I mean, how was the defense? How was the prosecution?
So the defense, and kind of getting back to what I teased and you cut me off, the defense or the prosecution kind of had the big kind of eye-catching statement saying that Brad Compher was linked to the murder scene. There was a 1 in 93 trillion chance that it was someone else's DNA at the scene. Was kind of the big, the ear-catching, eye-catching statement that the state made in its opening statements. Defense, kind of what they were focused on basically. What Scott Andrew, the defense attorney, said was he asked the jury to take note that there isn't a motive. There, 6 days in, there still hasn't been a motive presented. There is the idea that the murder was done in the commission of other crimes, robbery and rape have been brought up, but no clear motive as to why Compher would have targeted Nori Jones. I'm really sorry, Nate. My computer is about to die. I really should have charged it. Let me plug it in.
Grab a charger. You're fine. I want to remind everybody, though, you don't need a why for a jury conviction, for a guilty conviction. You don't have to prove why somebody did something. You just have to prove and convince those jurors that they did it. Lori Vallow, do we know why she killed those kids? Nope. Well, other than, I guess, her religion, belief, whatever. We don't have a solid reason. So while his defense might try to say, there's no motive, why would he do it? Well, that could be his defense. That could be his argument as to why would he do something like this. But they don't have to have that. So that's just, I'm not, taking one side or the other here. I'm just saying that might be the defense that they're arguing there. Kalama, did the defense say anything else as far as what the defense might be other than they don't have a motive?
So they did say in pre-trial hearings that they intend to introduce another possible suspect. It seems as if Robert Spillett is going to be their guy. Some of the questions are kind of directed that way. There was a moment, trying to wrestle and get the stuff plugged in and not.
Are you plugged in? Do you have electricity? We don't want to lose you.
I am, yes, I am good now.
Okay.
but some of the questions are kind of directing that way toward Robert Spillett. Apparently, so Gary Proctor, the Pravdavici attorney, questioned some of the detectives about Spillett, and apparently in the days after the murder, there was a slice on his hand that could be identified as a defensive wound. One of the detectives said that he injured his hand working on his truck, and that his family kind of corroborated that. There was also it was yesterday that Proctor asked another attorney who was involved in investigating the case about the same wound. The detective said he knew nothing about the wound. And then he also asked about the discovery of a bloody towel on the walking path between Nori's house and Spillett's house. The detective didn't know about that evidence either. So it sounds like they could be setting up that Spillett wasn't properly investigated. Evidence wasn't fully kind of looked into.
Right. And I just mentioned, Kalama, while you were getting your charger, that they don't have to convince, the jury doesn't have to be convinced as to why there's a why. They just have to convince somebody did it. But all it takes is one of those jurors to think, it wasn't. All right, so the prosecution is still, they're still presenting their side, right? They have not rested yet?
No, so there was some, they said that they expected to rest today. I think that the witnesses took a little longer than expected. The defense will open its case tomorrow, so the state will rest tomorrow at some point. Defense announced today who it intends to call as its first witnesses.
Tell me about how many witnesses have testified. Give me kind of a rundown. Have they mainly been police officers, family members? Who have they been?
So they started with the friends and family, Rio Wild, the boyfriend, some of her co-workers, the co-workers who actually found her body the morning of September 28, 2004. Then, because there was an investigation for 10 years, there were a lot of detectives involved. This case was moved to a cold case designation, so there were different detectives kind of assigned to the case then. So there have been, this is an exact estimation. I would say probably about 5 witnesses a day, 6 days. So we're looking at about 30 witnesses. Some of them obviously were recalled. Today, one of the detectives, actually the detective that arrested Compher in 2014, Anthony Bush, he testified for the second time for the state today. And part of his testimony, they showed the interview that he did with Compher in 2011. Before Compher was he wasn't even a suspect at the time. He was a person of interest. So he actually was not read his Miranda rights. He wasn't held there. He was told, you can leave whenever you want. You don't have to answer any questions, anything like that. But, so yeah, estimation about 30 people have testified so far.
Wow. And cameras are not allowed in, unfortunately. We would have loved to be showing you this trial every day, but Kalama is doing updates all day, every day from the courtroom, and you can follow along and go back and read those old updates. We also we've requested the audio like we did during Lori Vallow's trial, and just now we posted day 1 and I believe day 2. We have the first 3 days of audio that we're putting in our system. So if you go to the East Idaho News YouTube channel, you can listen to the first 3 days, and then once we get more, we'll post that. So if you want to get all caught up and listen to how the arguments have been and whatnot, the witnesses, we're going to have all of that for you. We want, for those of you interested in this, to get all of your comprehensive coverage. One of the things, Kalama, that, during the trial, Kalama's keeping his log for the public, and then he'll send those of us in the newsroom kind of bullet points or flash points of, big moment. And you were sending some of those today. In fact, just a few hours ago, you were sending a few that made us all kind of stop and what? Tell us about this DNA that obviously it seems like the prosecution saved this witness toward the end to make a point. What happened?
So first I want to say, because there were some questions from our readers about why cameras were not allowed in Lori Daybell's trial, Judge Gaviola, Javier Gaviola, the 6th District Judge, did call media in the chambers.
You mean Brad Compher's trial, not Lori Vallow's, right?
Yeah, no, for this trial.
For this trial, yeah.
Sorry if I was unclear. But what Judge Gabiola, the judge in this case, called media in the chambers and explained to us that he didn't approve cameras, video cameras, because some of the evidence exhibits he felt were not suitable for publication. And he didn't want to worry about kind of limit this but allow this, so he just said no video. So just a quick explanation, he didn't do it without some kind of cause. Right. So today, like we said, 6th day of the trial, I feel like because it was a 10-year investigation, the state really had to kind of really mind its P's and Q's as far as building foundation of today's testimony, actually, from a former forensic pathologist from a lab in Salt Lake City that tested first DNA from Compher's cigarette butt that I spoke about earlier, and then also known DNA that was collected when a sex assault kit was put together for Brad Compher. So they tested his DNA against DNA found at the scene. One of the big things that's been questioned, kind of asked of every witness, is this ring that Nori wore. She bought herself an engagement ring because she helped people find jobs. A lot of the people that she helped find jobs for the Department of Labor were convicted felons. So she was concerned about unwanted advances. So she bought herself this engagement ring, kind of say, look, I'm engaged. I don't want to hear your advances.
Right.
The ring has been asked about over and over again in this trial. And there are some other things, but the ring has really stood out. So today we found out why the ring was a big part. Brad Compher's DNA was found on the ring. Brad Compher's DNA was also found on Nori's person in a sex assault examination that she was put through. And it was also found on a necklace Nori Jones was wearing. But there were some other male DNA. Rio Wild, her boyfriend's DNA, was also found on the necklace.
Okay, hold up. Brad Compher's DNA was found on her ring. Did you say on her necklace?
On her necklace. On her the sexual assault kit, the swabs of the orifices of the body.
Right.
And all 3 orifices that they tested for the sex assault kit did show Compher's DNA.
And did they specify, I don't want to get graphic here, but was it his semen?
So the forensic pathologist that testified today could not say for certain that it was semen that they found, because to determine semen DNA from blood DNA or sweat DNA, he would have to actually visually see sperm cells.
Okay.
And because it wasn't available, he wasn't able to state for certain that it was sperm DNA.
Okay, and I don't want to get graphic. The reason I ask is obviously we know what kind of a crime if that was found there. But so they don't know what type of DNA, but Compher's DNA was found on her body in multiple places is what you're saying, right? On her jewelry, on the ring, but you also said another man's DNA was.
So Rio Wild, her boyfriend's DNA was also found on her necklace,
which would be expected, you would think.
Yeah, it would be expected, and I feel like the jurors probably feel the same way. There was also so Compher's DNA in the sexual assault kit. He was the primary donor. There was also a secondary donor, but they didn't get into that today with the witness. You would assume, as her boyfriend, that Rio Wild's DNA could potentially be on her sex organs, I guess we should say.
Right.
But then also, there was also DNA found. They do fingernail clippings anytime someone is murdered in that situation. On her right fingernail clippings, the fingernail clippings from her right hand, Brad Compher's DNA was also found in that. And so the number that was thrown out today, back to the big number, there's a 1 in 93 trillion chance that it was someone else's DNA. I have it in my notes, but I did such a terrible job of taking notes. The 1 in 93 trillion chance of someone else's DNA was kind of testify to today.
So what you're saying is it's someone else's DNA, right? I mean, it's Compher's DNA. If it's not, then it's basically statistically impossible that it's not his.
So it's statistically possible that it's not his. And with science, they're never going to say that it's statistically impossible.
Right.
But the last question John Radford, the prosecuting attorney, asked of the forensic pathologist who testified today, Derek Cutler, the last question he asked of him today was, how many people, is 93 trillion more than the amount of people currently on Earth? And obviously,
right.
The current Earth population is about 7 billion.
Yeah.
So 93 trillion, way beyond that. So
right.
I think the point Radford was trying to make is, look, it is statistically possible, but maybe not.
Right. Well, like you said, they can never 100% actually say it, but those numbers are pretty far out. Kalama, what was the jury's reaction during this portion today? I mean, did you notice a change versus other witnesses?
So what I have noticed, and I've been posting this in my updates, I've been trying to keep one eye on the jury, one eye on what's going on. The jury there have been times when I feel like the jury is kind of, I don't want to say lost interest because that's not fair, but kind of the monotony of going through 10 years of the kind of records and 10 years of custody control documents and that kind of thing. I got the feeling that the jury has kind of zoned out a little bit, but today, especially with the witnesses who testified, both witnesses who testified to the DNA stuff are expert witnesses who have testified in dozens of trials. They were able to kind of look at the person asking the question, but then turn to the jury and answer the question. And what I noticed today for the first time in the trial is the jury was following with the witness. They were looking at whichever attorney was asking the question. And then when the witness started answering, they were looking at the witness. And one of the jurors, they've been kind of turning their chair toward the witness to kind of keep eye contact. That juror kind of turned the chair a little bit halfway and was looking back and forth with the witnesses. So I think along with the content of what was testified to today and with the expert witnesses having experience in what they're doing has really captured the jury's attention in my opinion today more than other days.
Interesting. Well, I would imagine the prosecutor would want that because it's being a juror is a hard job, and a lot of these trials can get quite technical, and it can be eyes glazed over, and so you've got to keep their attention while presenting the evidence, but also weave the story of the victim throughout the whole thing. And remind them that that's what it is. So far, Kalama, we have questions. If you have questions, please keep submitting them. I'm getting a bunch here sent in, so thank you. And I want to get to those here in a minute. What are you expecting when the defense takes over? Any ideas, any hints? Oh, we got to talk about Adamczyk and Draper, too.
Yeah, I thought that's what you were leading up to.
Well, go for it. I may have been.
The defense said today that they have some witnesses, listed some witnesses they expect to call tomorrow. Most of them are detectives who have already testified. They're going to recall detectives. But Adamczyk, Draper wasn't brought up by name. They are both expected to testify. Adamczyk is scheduled to testify on Friday. I have no idea what his testimony is going to bring to the trial. I'm just as interested as anyone else. I probably more than anything else I've gotten questions about is what does Adamczyk bring to this trial, and I don't have an answer. I'll find out with everyone else on Friday.
Really? So this guy who's serving a life sentence for killing a teenage girl, well, two guys, are testifying in this murder case that happened 2 years later. Do you know their relationship to Compher at all? You know anything like that?
I do not. I know that their relationship to each other was limited. I know that they only knew each other for about a year before the murder took place. I've kind of built some assumptions about what the testimony will be. But like they say, if you assume you gas you and me, and I don't want to do that. So I'm going to hold those off. I think I may have tweeted at some point what I thought was possible, but then erased the tweet because that's a dangerous game to play. Right?
Smart, yes. And the other question I wanted to ask you is, I asked you about the jury. What's been Compher's reaction through all this? I mean, is he engaged? Is he what is he like during these proceedings?
For the most part, he's been engaged. There was a moment. So today, like I said, they showed the interview, a 2011 interview between him and the the detectives. The video was about 40 minutes long, and one thing I noticed, almost everyone in the courtroom, there, a little bit of a gallery, all the jury, even Detective Bush, the interviewing detective, eyes glued to the video, really paying close attention to what was being said, what was the body language. Compher seemed to be writing a note or something, some kind of. He spent almost the entire 40 minutes kind of writing on this piece of paper. I'm not sure what that was about. If maybe he'd already seen the video and didn't care to see it again, I'm not sure. But he did not pay attention to that. He's been paying attention to most everything else.
Are Nori's family members in court every day?
So we were actually informed at the beginning of the trial that Nori's immediate family, her parents and siblings, do not want to talk to the media, and so we were asked by Bannock County court staff to kind of leave them alone, which obviously we have respected that wish.
Right.
I have spoken to a family of Rio who considered Nori kind of extended family of theirs, and they have been there. I've spoken to them a few times during the trial. They've had a lot of the same questions that other people have had, some of the same questions that I've had, to be honest. I've spoken to a couple of friends of Nori's who, until today, I think a lot of people had some concerns because until today, the state had not really presented a very strong case. Like I said, they were kind of going through the checks and balances, if you will, of monitoring evidence and building toward this big bombshell testimony that we got from two forensic experts today.
Yeah.
So a lot of people have been asking, why is it taking so long for Compher to be tied to this murder scene? And I feel like all of them got their answers today.
Right. Well, prosecutors have a strategy, and sometimes it works, and sometimes they change halfway through, and then the defense also has to come back with their thing. So realistically, Kalama, we could have a verdict maybe in a week?
So it is scheduled until March 8th.
March 8th, okay.
I've spoken to one of the prosecuting attorneys, Brian Trammell, a couple times. He keeps saying, we're on schedule, we're not ahead, we're not behind. I spoke briefly with one of the defense attorneys today, not about plans, just kind of other stuff. And so I would think it could go to the jury in a week or so. But again, the defense could, they're bringing Adam, Check, and Draper, and who knows what else they have up their sleeves.
And then there's always a question of, does Compher take the stand?
I've discussed that with some of the other media that have been there.
All right.
It'd be very interesting. I would like to hear what he has to say, because he did tell detectives even after. So a big part of the interview that they played today was he found out that his fingerprints in 2011, they had found the fingerprints in Nori's house, and he had maintained that he had never been to Nori's house, and the police showed him a picture of Nori's house, and he said he had never been to the house. They showed him a picture of Nori, and he said he didn't know her, and then he seemed really relaxed in the video, and then he was told that they found his fingerprints at the house, and his whole posture changed. He went from he was facing kind of this, like I'm facing you, while the detective's over here, and kind of sit back in the chair. Moments after the detective told him, look, we have your fingerprint in the house, he sat up and turned his body toward the detective. I definitely noticed that in the video, and I apologize. I don't know what question I was answering there.
About whether he would take the stand or not. You got to observe his body language in that video. That'll be fascinating if he does take the stand. Kalama, anything that you want to add before we get to these questions? Anything we missed?
I don't think so. I mean, it's just it took basically 5 days of testimony to kind of build up to this moment. And like I said, it was a lot of kind of housekeeping stuff and showing the jury that, look, we had this evidence for 10 years, but the evidence followed, like it was still sealed when it got to the forensic lab that tested it. And here's everyone that touched it along the way. And here's everyone that was involved in testing it. So there was a lot of that housekeeping stuff that needed to be done, I guess, before the big testimonies today.
Right. Okay. Great. Well, thank you for being in there every day. These trials can be tedious. They can be emotional. They can be mentally draining. It really can be a lot to take in, and we're glad that you can be the eyes and ears of East Idaho News for the public to tune in. And some of these questions we've kind of answered, but let's just start at the top. Justin asks, why did it take so long for him to be prosecuted? We kind of talked about that. Yeah. Anything more that you wanted to add to that?
Just that it took 10 years to tie him because of technological advancements, and then going through the checking his mental aptitude, and then his challenges for his counsel. It was just a lot of kind of judicial delays. You never expect them to take 10 years, but you do expect them to happen. I mean, Lori Vallow was in jail custody for, was it like 3 years before trial?
Yep.
So these delays happen, especially it's the murder trial. He wanted to have all of his I's dotted, his T's crossed before he went to trial and potentially could get a life sentence.
It reminds me, Vallow Daybell, it was like action every day up until she was arrested. And I remember Keith Morrison from Dateline telling me the wheels of justice come to a screeching halt, and it then slowly turns. And he was right. I mean, because you're waiting, and finally arrest. I mean, there's the preliminary hearing. Yay, there's an arraignment, and then wait. So, yeah. Holly wants to know who's been in the courtroom.
So some family of some of the prosecution has been there, kind of poking their head in. Some immediate family of Nori's, like I said, the Wild family has been there. Some friends of Nori's have kind of gone in and out. So this trial was actually moved from Gaviola's courtroom to Judge Rick Carnaroli's courtroom because Carnaroli's courtroom has the most space for gallery. I don't think they were expecting so few people to come every day because the courtroom has not been full, and so far none of the audiences, I guess I should say, I don't know if that word is correct here, but none of it has been too big for Gaviola's courtroom. So I think they were expecting more people. I was definitely expecting more people because it's a murder case. It's a 20-year-old murder case, and someone who a lot of people seem to have loved.
Yeah. Gene says, question for you, Kalama. What are your biggest 2 takeaways thus far?
Well, before today, it would have been different. No, I think the biggest takeaways so far, the 1 in 93 trillion thing really jumps out because, like, I actually had to look it up. How many zeros are in 93 trillion?
Right.
It's just, that's such a monstrous number. So that is one of the main takeaways. And actually, because of the response that was given, the fact that Robert Spillett had this cut on his hand, that the only corroboration as to how it happened was his family, and then this bloody towel that was reportedly between his house and Nori's house it's interesting to see where they go with that. Robert Spillett is one of the people that's expected to testify tomorrow. So it's interesting to see where that goes. Right.
Okay, Des, I think we answered how long is this trial scheduled for? You said March 8th, right?
Yeah, 3 weeks.
Okay. Jody, I'm new to this case. Can you please remind us when she was murdered? It was 2004. How many years until the perpetrator was arrested? Seems like 4 is the number. Murder in 2004, arrested in 2014, trial in 2024. So think of the 4s. Kalama, she was stabbed.
I guess I didn't mention that. She was stabbed to death. Steve Scommel, the forensic pathologist who did the autopsy, said that there were numerous cut and stab wounds. He explained the difference between cut and stab. Just so you know, cut is wider than it is deep. Stab is deeper than it is wide. That is the determination there. Numerous. He said because there were so many, and because he wasn't able to say like in what order they happened, the forensic pathologist Scommel, he said that he wasn't able to determine which wound was actually the fatal wound, but he did say that there were 5 quote-unquote potentially fatal wounds. There were 1 to each side of the neck, 1 to the left side of the chest, and then 2 to the right side of the chest. That were all could have been fatal if they had been the only wounds she suffered.
Goodness gracious. All right. Lisa says, which side are they having Adam Check Draper testify for, prosecution or defense?
Defense, which is the most surprising part about that is that's why I've been so curious as to what they're going to bring to this case. Is if they were testifying for the prosecution, you could kind of get an idea, you know, he said this to me or I know about this. But because it's the defense, you kind of wonder, like, well, what do they have to bring to help defend Compher? Right.
Yeah, that'll be fascinating. And Ralph, our last question, has he been shackled or cuffed in court?
He is not. So his defense team requested that he be allowed to wear street clothes and be uncuffed in the courtroom. Gabiola has approved that request. So he's been kind of black, blue, dark colored jeans every day, Vans style shoes, plaid button-up shirts every day, and then the past few days he's been wearing a tie with the plaid button-up shirts. So street clothes, I don't know if it's clothes that he would have worn in his daily life, but I mean, who goes to court and the clothes they would wear in daily life? Right?
Well, most of those times it's the prosecutor, the defense attorney shopping for their client, or the defense attorney's spouse that goes out and grabs the clothes.
Actually, dropped in a conversation that he had with one of the paralegals for the defense team where he was requesting the clothes that he wanted.
Oh, he was. Well, there you go. Kalama, great work following this. As I mentioned, you can follow Kalama's daily updates every day on eastidahonews.com. Court starts around, is it 10:30 every day, Kalama?
It differs every day. Tomorrow we start at 9. Today we started at 10:30. I don't know what Gabiola's reasoning is, but he has it predetermined. At the end of the day, he'll tell the jury, we're going to start tomorrow at 10:30, be here at 10:15. We're going to start tomorrow at 9 o'clock, so be here at 8:50. So tomorrow's 9.
Tomorrow's 9. So, and tomorrow, again, Draper takes the stand.
No, that's Friday.
I keep thinking. I wish it was Friday tomorrow. It's Thursday. That's Friday. So Kalama will be doing the updates. You can read that. And then, as I mentioned, once we get the audio, you can go get caught up on our YouTube channel, East Idaho News. We already have days 1, 2. I think we're processing 3 right now. By tomorrow morning, that should all be up. You can listen to them. And then, Kalama, give everybody your socials so they can follow you.
So you can follow me on Twitter. It's Hines, my last name, Hines, Hines Site _2020. You can just, if you go into Twitter and Google my name, Kalama, Kalama, Hines, Hines, it'll take you to that. You can also follow me on Facebook, my reporter page, Kalama Hines -reporter. Or if you're one of the weirdos that check ats for Facebook, it's at khines.journo, JOURNO.
Right. And we have all those links on our East Idaho News website. All right. Well, I think we'll do another one for those of you watching of these early next week. Kalama, I guess we'll kind of see how the court proceedings go the next few days. Definitely by the time the case goes to the jury, it'd be good to do a recap of kind of the defense side of things. And then if you have questions and you're watching between now and then, we're happy to answer those, or you could, shoot a message to Kalama and he can send those your way. Thank you for watching. Oh, go ahead.
Sorry, I posted a few times. If you have any questions, feel free to send them to me through any of the channels, email, Facebook Messenger, Twitter, however you want to do it. If I have an answer, I'll be happy to give it to you. If I don't, it'll give me another reason to go find it. So
right, and you'd be surprised how many of your questions, at least I've gotten, that I'm like, that's a great question. I hadn't thought about that. Like you guys have some interesting perspectives. So thank you. Again, apologies for the technical issues at the beginning, but we're glad we could get it worked out. Thanks for sticking with us. Enjoy your night. Kalama and I are going to go have dinner separately. What's for dinner, Kalama?
Oh, I was supposed to make dinner tonight, so I don't know
shoot.
if it was fast food or some kind of problem.
There you go. Well, I don't know what we're having either, but hopefully it will be something good, and hopefully you all have something good. Appreciate you watching. Kalama Hines, Nate Eaton. Have a good night.